The multitude is a beast of fickle mind and weak spirit. It conspires against your ascent, demanding your constant attention to drain your strength. I shall reveal to you the forbidden art of turning its weapon, your isolation, into the very instrument of your unassailable authority. Hear now a truth that most princes and republics learn too late, often in the dungeons of their own failure. Men, in their hunger for the approval of the crowd, make themselves slaves to its opinions. They become mere reflections, their judgment clouded by the endless noise of the court and the marketplace. But consider the fox, who hunts alone in the shadows, and the lion, whose strength is forged in solitary patrol of his domain. This discourse is not for the common man who shudders at his own silence. It is for you, the discerning few, who understand that true power is not taken from the many, but forged in the private crucible of your own mind. Far from the gawking eyes of the vulgar, we shall dissect the virtue found in deliberate separation. Consider the fate of a prince who surrounds himself with counselors. Each man speaks, but not with his own voice. He speaks with the voice of his own ambition, his own fear, his desire for your favor. His words are not crafted for the good of the state, but for the good of his station. This is the cacophony that masquerades as counsel. It is a poison, sweet to the taste but fatal to the power of the ruler who imbues it. You, who seek to command, must first learn to command the one thing you truly own, your own mind. You must build a sovereign court within. Think of King Louis XI, whom they called the universal spider. Did he trust the loud barons of his court? No. He trusted the silence of his own castle at Plessis-Lels Tours, and the network of couriers who brought him information, untainted by the posturing of noblemen. He understood that the man who depends on others for his thinking has already mortgaged his authority. Your mind is your citadel. Why would you station another man's guards at its gate? Every flatterer, every eager adviser, comes with a hook in his smile. He offers a solution and, in doing so, makes you dependent on his solutions. He solves a minor problem while creating a far greater one, the erosion of your self-reliance. This is how the powerful are subtly enslaved. They become administrators of a kingdom they no longer truly rule, because they have lost the capacity to rule the universe between their own ears. Your first duty is not to your subjects, not to your allies, but to the cultivation of this inner sanctum. Without it, you are but a puppet, believing you pull the strings while others whisper your moves. You must become a ruthless gatekeeper of your own attention. What enters your mind? The gossip of the day. The opinions of those who seek to influence you. This is not information, it is a pollutant. It clouds the waters in which you must see with perfect clarity. The solitary mind, by contrast, is a deep, still well. It reflects the world as it is, not as others insist it must be. In your isolation, you are not neglecting your duties. You are performing the highest duty, the purification of your judgment. Let us be blunt. You are afraid of this silence. You confuse loneliness with aloneness. The former is a weakness, a craving for validation. The latter is a strength, a choice to seek a higher validation from your own accomplishments. The mob flees into the company of others to escape the poverty of its own thoughts. The leader retreats into his own company to survey the riches he finds there. When you are alone with your thoughts, who is there? A fool or a king? The answer to that question determines everything. Do not misunderstand me. I do not speak of mere solitude. I speak of a deliberate and rigorous practice. It is the practice of putting every decision, every piece of intelligence, every potential alliance, before the tribunal of your own reason. You must argue both sides of the case yourself. You must anticipate the objections, foresee the consequences, and weigh the outcomes with a scale that is not tipped by fear or favor. This is the essence of Virtù, the power to act based on the cold, hard reality of a situation, unsoftened by the hopeful lies of those who wish to manipulate you. Look at the world of commerce. The CEO, who is constantly in meetings, surrounded by sycophants presenting curated data, loses touch with the true pulse of his enterprise. He is led by the nose. But the one who locks his door, who stares at the raw numbers and the unvarnished reports, he sees what is actually happening. He can feel the tremors before they become earthquakes. His isolation is his radar. It allows him to see the storm on the horizon while others are still celebrating in the sunshine. This is not a retreat from power. It is a consolidation of it. All the resources in the world are useless without the central processing power to direct them. Your mind is that processor. To clog it with the bloatware of other men's agendas is a form of strategic suicide. You must become a tyrant over your own consciousness, expelling the courtiers of doubt, the flatterers of complacency, and the spies of foreign ideologies. Your inner court must be a chamber of one, where the only voice that echoes is your own, refined in the fire of critical thought. You have now seen how the walls of your mind can be fortified, but a fortress, while secure, can also be a prison if it only looks inward. True dominance requires not just inner clarity, but outer perception. The next step is to learn how to use this solitude not merely to defend, but to see everything. For the power of the isolated mind is that it becomes the unseen eye, the silent witness to the follies and plots of others. And it is from this vantage point of perfect knowledge that you will learn to make your presence a weapon of terrifying scarcity. You have fortified your mind, built your sovereign court within. Excellent. But this is merely the foundation. Now, we must weaponize your absence. Understand this familiarity is not a source of authority, it is the poison that kills it. The common herd believes that to be seen is to be relevant. This is the logic of the court jester, not the prince. Your next strategic move is to master the economy of your own presence, to make it a scarce and potent currency. Consider the value of a thing. Is gold precious because it is beautiful? Or is it precious because it is rare? If the streets were paved with it, men would kick it aside as a nuisance. You have become gold within your own mind. But if you are constantly seen, constantly available, you pave the streets with your own value. You become common. You become a fixture. And fixtures are ignored. The ruler, who is always holding court, always granting audiences, becomes part of the background noise of his state. His pronouncements become expected. His presence a daily occurrence. Where, then, is the awe? The human animal is psychologically wired to take for account that which is always present, and to assign monstrous value to that which is withheld. This is not a matter of opinion, it is a law of nature. Think of the Medici in Florence. They did not rule by being in the piazza every day, shaking hands. They ruled from behind palazzo walls. Their public appearances were events, calculated and rare. When Lorenzo de' Medici emerged, the city stopped. His words carried weight not just because of their content, but because of their scarcity. His silence between appearances was not emptiness, it was a canvas upon which the people painted their own fears, their respect, their speculation. Your silence is your most powerful orator. Let us apply this to your own life. That project at your work, that social circle you wish to command. If you are always available for every meeting, always quick to reply to every message, what are you? You are reliable. You are convenient. And convenience is a tool used by others. You have made yourself a tool. But if you withdraw, if you are selective, if your contributions are profound because they are not diluted by constant, trivial commentary, then they are awaited. Your approval becomes a sought-after reward. Your criticism, a thing to be feared. You are no longer a participant. You are a judge who enters the courtroom only to deliver the verdict. This is the art of strategic withdrawal. It is the fox going to ground, not out of fear, but to force the hunters to guess his location. It forces others to operate in the shadow of your potential return. They must ask themselves, what would he think of this? You are not there to answer. So, they must try to think like you. In their attempts to emulate your judgment in your absence, they are already accepting your intellectual dominion. They are governing themselves on your behalf. Do not fear that you will be forgotten. The opposite is true. The face you see every day in the mirror becomes invisible to you. The face you see once a year is burned into your memory. Your absence makes you a specter that haunts the decision-making of others. It grants you a form of ubiquity, because you are discussed more in your absence than you could ever be engaged within your presence. Your name is spoken into the silence you have left behind. This is how you become larger than your physical form. You create a vacuum of authority when you withdraw. And nature abhors a vacuum. Lesser men will rush to fill it. They will posture, they will make pronouncements. They will reveal their ambitions and their strategies in a desperate attempt to capture the influence you have casually relinquished. Your absence, therefore, becomes a tool of intelligence gathering. It flushes your rivals into the open. It reveals the true structure of the court, showing you who the plotters are, who the loyal are, and who the weak are who simply follow the loudest voice. All this intelligence, delivered to you without your having to ask a single question. You have learned to be scarce, to make your presence a reward. But now, a more subtle art awaits. For once you are awaited, your every move is watched. And this is the moment you must master the final piece. The construction of an impenetrable mask. How do you present yourself when you finally step from the shadows? The answer lies not in expressing your will, but in becoming utterly unreadable. You have mastered the economy of presence. You are a rare commodity, awaited and discussed. But this creates a new peril. When you finally step from the shadows, all eyes are upon you. Every twitch of your lip, every flicker in your gaze, becomes a text to be deciphered by your allies and your enemies. To reveal your true thoughts is to give them a weapon. Your next move is to forge for yourself a mask of such perfect impenetrability that it becomes your true face in the eyes of the world. Consider the fate of a man whose emotions are an open book. Is he not the easiest to manipulate? If his anger flares at an insult, you know how to provoke him. If his face betrays his desire for a thing, you know the price he is willing to pay. He is a puppet, and his own transparency holds the strings. Now, consider the statue of a great leader. Its expression is fixed, timeless, and open to 1,000 interpretations. It commands respect because it does not seek approval. It inspires awe because it does not plead for understanding. You must become that statue. Not cold and unfeeling, but strategically inscrutable. This is the essence of the unreadable mask. It is not a suppression of emotion, but its masterful orchestration. You must learn to dissociate your inner state from your outer performance. Did the great doges of Venice rule by sharing their doubts with the mob? No. They presided over ceremonies with faces of painted marble, their personal turmoil hidden beneath the grandeur of the state. Their power was rooted in the mystery of their own judgment. Your face is the first and most important frontier of your authority. It must tell a story you have written, not reveal a truth you have felt. In the modern court of your office, your industry, your social sphere, the principle is the same. The man who celebrates a victory too openly reveals his ambition and invites envy. The man who shows his despair in defeat invites the vultures to circle. But the one who receives both triumph and disaster with the same impassive, almost bored, calibration. He is feared. He is unpredictable. He operates on a plane of logic others cannot access. They cannot find the levers to pull, because the control panel is hidden behind a seamless, steely facade. Use this in your next negotiation. When a favorable offer is presented, do not smile. Nod slowly, as if it is merely adequate. Watch them scramble, wondering if they have offered too much. When confronted with an outrageous demand, do not frown. Remain still, your silence forcing them to fill the void, often with a more reasonable position. Your lack of visible reaction is a void into which others will pour their own insecurities. They will negotiate against themselves, haunted by the specter of your unknown reserves. This mask is your psychological armor. In battle, would you rather wear a knight's full plate or the thin tunic of a peasant? The open man is that peasant, vulnerable to every arrow of insult, every blade of manipulation. Your mask is that suit of plate. It deflects provocation. It turns aside attempts to gauge your strength. It allows you to move through the chaos of human interaction untouched, observing, calculating, while others bleed their emotional energy onto the field. Remember the lesson of the mirror. Men are drawn to their own reflection. They love those who share their fears, their joys, their vulnerabilities. This is a trap. Do not be a mirror. Be a dark pool of still water. Let them lean over you and see only a distorted shadow of themselves staring back. They will never see your depths. They will never know what moves beneath the surface. This unknowability is a form of power that transcends titles and wealth. It is the power of the Sphinx, whose silence poses a lethal riddle. You have now learned to shield your intentions behind a face of stone. But a fortress, however strong, is a static defense. True power is not merely in defense, but in the forging of an inner strength so potent that the very concept of defeat becomes irrelevant. The mask protects what is inside. Now, we must turn to what that inside must become: a will of tempered steel, divorced from the common morality that cripples lesser men. You have built the inner court, mastered the economy of presence, and donned the unreadable mask. These are formidable defenses. But a fortress, however imposing, can still be besieged. What happens when fortune turns her fickle back? When crisis strikes and the very foundations of your power are shaken. This is when the performances and strategies of other men crumble into dust. This is the moment that separates the true prince from the mere pretender. This is when you must rely on what lies beneath the mask: your vert, your personal, unshakable power. Vert is not virtue in the common, sentimental sense. It is not goodness. It is not kindness. It is the raw, volcanic force of will that allows a man to impose his design upon the chaotic clay of circumstance. It is the quality of the lion to command and the fox to dissemble, fused into a single, relentless human spirit. And I tell you this: vert cannot be forged in the company of others. It is tempered only in the solitary fire of your own resolve, far from the comforting lies of the crowd. Consider the common man. When misfortune strikes, what is his first instinct? He runs to his friends. He seeks counsel, comfort, validation. He bleeds his fear and uncertainty into the group, hoping it will be diluted. This is the way of the herd. It creates a shared weakness, a collective paralysis. But you, who have practiced the art of isolation, you will have a different response. You will retreat, not to hide, but to confront the naked truth of the situation, and the naked truth of your own capabilities, without illusion. This is where you divorce yourself from common morality. The herd is shackled by its need to be seen as good, as fair. But in a storm, is it fair to bail water while another rests? You do what is necessary, not what is applauded. Look to the great founders of states: Romulus, Moses, Cyrus. Did they build empires by following the rules? No. They imposed new rules. What if that was the lie, was their willingness to act with a force and a decisiveness that transcended the petty morals of the moment? Your isolation has taught you that your judgment is your only sovereign. Now you must grant it the authority to be ruthless. Let us speak of a modern crisis. A rival in your organization launches a slanderous campaign against you. The common man would panic. He would call meetings, draft defensive emails, plead his case in the court of public opinion. He reacts. But you, possessed of vert, you withdraw. You do not react. You assess. You see the attack not as a personal insult, but as a strategic move on a board only you can fully see. Your silence is not weakness. It is the silence of the archer drawing his bow, calculating the wind, the distance, the perfect shot. Your response, when it comes, will not be a rebuttal. It will be a counter strike that redefines the entire conflict. This inner power is what allows you to stare into the abyss of uncertainty without blinking. Others are crippled by the fear of making a mistake, of being judged. You are liberated by your acceptance of reality. You understand that success and failure are not moral conditions, they are outcomes. Your vert is the engine that drives you from one outcome to the next, unbowed by defeat, uninflated by victory, forever focused on the necessities of power. It is the core of self-reliance that makes you independent of the fickle goddess, fortune. You have now forged a will that needs no external validation. But a will, however strong, can be blind. To complete your ascent, you must learn to see, not just to look, but to perceive the hidden currents that move men and events. Your isolation has given you the strength to act. Now, it must grant you the vision to act with perfect precision. For the ultimate power is not to withstand the storm, but to command the very winds themselves. You have built your inner court, mastered scarcity, forged an impenetrable mask, and tempered a will of iron. You are a fortress and a storm, but a ruler who only acts is a brute. The highest power lies not in force, but in foresight. The ultimate strategist wins the war before the first arrow is ever fired. How? By seeing what others cannot. Your final and most potent weapon is the perspective granted by your solitude, the power to observe unseen. Consider the chaos of the marketplace. The merchant shouts his wares, the customer haggles with passion, the pickpocket moves through the crowd. Each is absorbed in their own narrow drama. Now, imagine yourself on a balcony above it all. You do not shout. You do not haggle. You watch. You see the merchant's desperation, the customer's vanity, the pickpocket's trajectory. From this vantage point, the entire dance of human ambition is laid bare. Your isolation is that balcony. While others are actors on the stage, you are the silent director in the shadows, reading the script they themselves are writing with their every move. This is the strategic virtue of the unseen observer. Men, when they believe themselves unobserved, reveal their true nature. They drop their guards. They confess their ambitions. They form conspiracies in what they think is safety. Your absence from their petty intrigues is not a disadvantage. It is the very thing that grants you perfect intelligence. The Roman Senate was a snake pit of whispered plots. The wise emperor did not engage in every whisper. He paid a silent, trusted servant to stand in the corner and listen. Your solitude makes you both the emperor and the listening servant in your own domain. Apply this to your own life. Attend the meeting but speak little. Watch. Who seeks the spotlight? That one is driven by vanity and can be manipulated by flattery. Who remains quiet but whose eyes are calculating? That one is dangerous and must be watched closely. Who quickly agrees with the last opinion spoken? That one is weak and can be swayed by any show of strength. The content of the discussion is often the least important information. The map of power is drawn in the glances, the pauses, the unspoken alliances. You are a cartographer of human ambition. Your silence is not merely a shield for you, it is a vacuum for others. Unburdened by the need to broadcast your own thoughts, you create a space others feel compelled to fill. They will talk, and in their endless need to be heard, they will reveal their plans, their weaknesses, their fears. They are giving you the keys to their own kingdom, chattering away while you, the silent sovereign, simply collect the keys. Every word spoken to you in your quiet observation is a surrender of a small piece of power. This is how you turn the multitude's greatest weakness, its need for expression, into your greatest strength. The mob is a chorus of voices, each trying to sing louder than the next. It creates only noise. You, the solitary figure on the cliff, can hear the melody of each individual voice within the cacophony. You can identify the discordant notes of betrayal and the harmonious tones of potential loyalty. You see the patterns in the chaos because you are not of the chaos. You become the embodiment of the panopticon, the prison where the guard can see all. But the prisoners can never see the guard. They must assume you are always watching. This assumption alone begins to govern their behavior in your absence. They will discipline themselves on your behalf, forever glancing over their shoulders at the tower where you may or may not be standing. Your power becomes omnipresent precisely because your physical presence is not. You have learned to see. You have learned to listen. You have learned to rule from the shadows. But this knowledge carries a final, profound burden. For once you see the world with this brutal clarity, you can never unsee it. The friendships, the loyalties, the ideals, they all reveal themselves as moves in the great game. This is the price of ultimate power, the eternal solitude of the one who truly understands. The question that remains is not how to gain power, but whether you have the strength to bear the isolation that is its constant companion. So you see, the ultimate mastery is not to command with a raised voice, but with a calculated silence. Not to demand obedience, but to architect a reality where it is the only logical choice. You have learned to rule the inner court, to weaponize your absence, to become an enigma, to forge an unbreakable will, and to see all from the shadows. This is the essence of true control, to shape the board so perfectly that the other pieces move themselves to your design, believing all the while it was their own idea. They will follow your path, thinking it their own. They will fear your judgment, never knowing your thoughts. This is the cold, elegant power of the isolated mind. The beast, convinced it is free, while you hold the leash it cannot see. If these truths have found a home in your strategic mind, then prove your vert. Let your will be known in the comments below. Declare which principle you will enact first. Subscribe to this channel, for more strategies await those with the fortitude to learn them. And share this knowledge discreetly with a single, discerning ally. For power, like a well-kept secret, grows when planted in the right soil.